The Sugarloaf Reserve is a large bushland area covering roughly about 45 hectares. It is located within the East Strait area in New South Wales state and makes contact with the Lane Cove River. It is used as an area for passive public recreation and guided environmental education in the form of school excursions. This large bushland also serves as a safe spot for varying wildlife population. Animals residing in this reserve go from the vulnerable powerful owl to the also vulnerable mouse-eared fishing bat, one of the few sanctuaries for threatened and near-threatened species to live. Seeing how this is an ecologically active environment housing hundreds of species, some will most definitely be more advantaged when compared to others. This is the case with the two species in question. On one side, the small long-nosed bandicoot marsupial, on the other the tiny red-crowned toddler amphibian. With this stated, why do some populations of native animal species thrive while other species populations decline? Well, to first answer this, we have to take into account various things. The species in question, in this case the bandicoot and toddler, the environment, the Sugarloaf Reserve, and its human impact. Defining these first will better help to determine the main reasons for which animal populations vary in success within the same environment. We have already mentioned the long-nosed bandicoot and the red-crowned toddler, but what are these and how are they related to the inquiry question? Firstly, both these animals reside in the same reserve, this being the Sugarloaf Reserve. Secondly, they both have very different levels of success reflected in the population density. The bandicoot, being the non-threatened animal spectrum, has a large number of individuals effortlessly living in the reserve. These species of bandicoot grow to be around 40 centimeters in length, possess an elongated nose, hence how it was named, and are covered in thick fur of sandy grey-brown color. This animal is mainly nocturnal and so comes out of its self-dug home at night to forage the forest floor for food ranging from plants and fungi to small invertebrates, insects. The long-nosed bandicoot is a marsupial whose pouch faces the opposite side as a kangaroo's. This is to prevent dirt from getting in as the owner digs through the soil. This animal's simple yet effective adaptations allowed it to become one of the most common small marsupials ranging from the northeast Queensland peninsula all the way through to South Victoria. It can basically live in any moderate climate bushland. Now when we go over to the red-crowned toddler, it's quite different as you might have guessed. A tiny amphibian growing up to modest 30 millimeters in length, is of a dark red maroon color with the bright red T marking between its eyes. Its bottom half is of a dark grey with random white spots. Very little is known about this frog due to its cryptic nature. Things such as its habitat, wet sandstone areas in woodlands, near creeks or water bodies are however known. Now, since it is so tiny that any animal around its limited habitat environment can deem the red-crowned toddler an easy snack, it has developed a strong poison excreted from its spores like most poisonous frogs. Its bright coloring also warns possible predators about its regretful consumption. A complex, tiny and hardly adaptable animal like this tiny red-crowned amphibian has unlikely chance of coming anywhere near the success of its Sugarloaf Reserve neighbor, the long-nosed bandicoot. The fact that it needs such a specific habitat as wet woodland sandstone areas near rivers to survive in the wild means it is already limited to a very few places. And on top of this, the frog is very susceptible to any changes in the environment due to its tiny size and delicate amphibian build. The Sugarloaf Reserve is quite a large place to support such small animals. It certainly has that expanse, moderate bushland and soft soil that the long-nosed bandicoot requires to face, and it does also provide some wet sandstone habitats for the red-crowned toddler. But this area is also shared with the public. The human factor in the Sugarloaf Reserve has definitely had an impact in its wildlife. A main road was built to keep people away from the thick bushland by forcing people in a frequently walked path. This separates the animals away from the people and maintains the ecosystems in a sort of natural state. But this also affects the animal populated areas. Where once long-nosed bandicoots used to live, now lays a wide, rocky path used for excursion purposes. But this path is only a tiny representation of the actual worldwide issue. The small path cutting through the Sugarloaf Reserve is only a scaled-down example for urbanization. Although quite beneficial for us humans, it is devastating for animal habitats and their ecosystems. Plants and animals alike are directly impacted by the expansion of our cities and resource needs. Of course, this is a global issue involving many other declining animal populations. All in all, human expansion has forced many animal populations, like the red-crowned toddler, to make do with the small patches of true wildlife environments they have left. at the center of crowded cities and agricultural lands. This forces wildlife to more fiercely fight for resources they may need collectively, as they are now closer to each other compared to before.